Sacramento Kings are going to hire Mike Brown as Warriors assistant, give him a 4-year contract, become the net franchise's next head coach. Okay, so supposedly Mark Jackson and Mike Brown were the finalists. They hired Mike Brown. So now the Lakers have talked to Mark Jackson and others with Zoom calls. They're waiting to see if Doc Rivers and Quinn Snyder become available. I guess the question becomes, if you've interviewed Terry Stotts and Darvin Ham and Adrian Griffin, as well as Mark Jackson, does not getting the Kings job, Ryan, in your mind, make it more or less likely that Mark Jackson would get the Lakers job?
Well, it's definitely a plus, and the chess game behind the scenes is that the Kings jumped on their guy before the Lakers possibly could have, and what you do is you put a little more pressure on the Lakers. When I see Mark Jackson as a hire, clearly this is something that LeBron would like, but I think it's a no-brainer for the Lakers. This is why I say that, Doug. With those three personalities in the locker room, the only thing that Frank Vogel did wrong is not be on the same page with his guys. The NBA is a players' league. Ultimately, at the end of the day, Doug, however it wants to wind up, it's very likely that Russell Westbrook is going to be a Laker unless something unforeseen happens. He wasn't able to be moved last year. So it comes down to respect. Mark Jackson, a good friend of mine, a guy who mentored me while I was in college, in the NBA, in broadcasting and so forth and so forth. That's just who Mark is, commands respect. And when you have Anthony Davis, you have LeBron James, you have Russell Westbrook, you got to get on the same page with those guys. You have to find a way to get them to play hard. You have to relate to them. And Mark Jackson has that ability, because I don't want to say you could be stuck with those guys, but you may not have many options if you're the Lakers in this offseason to move forward. And I know, Doug, you've heard the speculation of, moving on from LeBron James or moving on from Anthony Davis and shaking things up. I just don't think it's going to happen. So you got to find a way to get on the same page. And I think Mark Jackson is going to garner that respect, and it may be more about the respect than, whatever you may think a coach has better X's and O's or does something else better. You just got to get someone that those guys are going to be on the same page with.
I like the idea of I understand the respect factor, right? And I mean, part of coaching in the NBA is they have to respect you. Part of getting that respect is you have to have won before. As a player, as a coach, mostly as a coach, I don't think Mark Jackson is going to be the coach of the Lakers. I just don't. I think that the association with Klutch helps and hurts him. Yeah. It helps him get in the conversation, but I'm pretty sure that there's enough in the Lakers front office that are like, yeah, we're not going to have our best players, both our best players, and our coach also all be represented by one agency who, oh yeah, by the way, was the one who wanted us to go get Russell Westbrook, which has been an abject disaster to begin with, right? That just doesn't, it seems like it, especially with that place that's a small shop, I don't see it happening. In addition to the fact that, look, hasn't gotten a job since he got fired in Golden State. And what do all these other people know that we don't know? That's I think kind of the feeling there. With the Mark Jackson I know, I liked him. We worked at ESPN together. I grew up idolizing Mark Jackson. He's an incredible passing point guard. Everything that came out of Golden State when he left was not good, and it was the rest of the organization that he had turned off. That was a long time ago, and people do evolve and people do change. But I think what came out of Golden State and the fact that he's aligned with Klutch, I don't see it happening. I don't see it being somebody that I could be wrong. I don't see that being somebody that even Phil Jackson would advise, and he's obviously kind of part of the process. I don't see that one happening. I do think they need to respect somebody, but would you respect a Darvin Ham? Who of course played in the league and has coached in the league for a long time. Who of the other guys would you respect? I don't know who, or an Adrian Griffin. The Terry Stotts thing feels like, obviously he was a player and he's been a coach even in their division, and he played a style that I think is likable. I just think if you have that team, I don't think they're going anywhere with Russell Westbrook. I don't know how you get on the same page when he can't shoot. He has to have the ball. He can't play without the ball in his hands, and he's on a team where he's at best the third best guy you'd want to have the ball in his hands. Like, I don't see it.
Well, it sounds like from all the reports, he and Frank Vogel, or he just kind of tuned out Frank Vogel. It seems like it was pretty lost where, hey, Russ, we got LeBron. We want him to do his thing. We want you to help. Let's get on the same page. And it just didn't work out. And Russ is like, I'm Russ. I'm me, okay? I've done this for a long time. You're not going to tell me kind of what to do. So that's why I can't, like I look at it, it's like, hey, Doug, you may say Mark Jackson's not the guy. And those other two guys, Darvin Ham and Griffin, kind of first opportunities. I don't know if you want to throw a first opportunity coach into this situation unless you're planning on blowing this thing up. But I think if you are planning on moving forward, it's going to have to absolutely be respect as the bottom line, because if I'm saying, hey, Russ, I'm gonna sit you early in the third and I'm gonna bring you back to play all the fourth, and he ain't on the same page with it, it's not going to end well. Even though we can point a lot of fingers at Russell Westbrook, like they weren't on the same page. The respect wasn't there, and Russ is to that point where you're stepping back and you're saying, hey, you're not giving the same output, so are you still having the same say? And the Lakers are in a position that you can't just move forward from Russ and you snap your fingers. Like, you got to make this thing work. You got to find a way to get on the same page with them. And let's say maybe it's not Mark Jackson. You got to get someone that those three guys sit down and they're okay with. And I do understand, you are absolutely right, Doug, that Klutch gets you in the door, but is Klutch the right way to go? Because LeBron James is up in age. And after this last year, if he was putting his name behind certain players, it just didn't end well. It didn't go right. And I don't know the inner workings of who's to blame, but there's a narrative saying that, well, LeBron, we kind of brought in the guys that you like, and it didn't work. So you are right with that, Doug.